Hello people, I'm Jaby KOAY, joined by Cami Storm. We're looking at top 5 ancient Indian martial arts Independence Day special. This is from Simply Chuma, the YouTube channel, and I was very happy to have Cami do this one with me because she used to do MMA and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
like you're in
for
the
years,
fight scenes and stuff like that, and I've thrown a punch. So here we go, let's check this out. This video is sponsored by Sunday, India's first sleep tech startup. Sunday sells mattresses straight to the consumer, cutting out the middleman and saving you up to 30%. Click the link in the description to receive a special deal only for the KOAY family. That's you guys.
When you say martial arts, the first thing that comes to your mind is Kung Fu, Karate, and maybe China and Japan for being the birthplace of these martial arts.
That's true.
But did you know that martial arts as a concept came from southern parts of India? There are even written scriptures that the person who taught Kung Fu to East Asia was Bodhidharma, who was actually a South Indian king. India is the birthplace of martial arts, and somehow we end up looking to the east for the same. Therefore, today Simply Chuma is counting down the top 5 martial art forms of India. Number 5, Silambam. Closely linked to Kerala's Kalari Payattu, Silambam is an ancient stick martial art of Tamil Nadu. According to Sangam era literature, there were a number of exercise centers called Silambakudams all over the Dravida Nadu region, and the age-old art, patronized by the Chera, Chola and Pandya rulers, is recorded as one of the 64 art forms of ancient India. The word Silam in Tamil stands for hills, and Mambam, the Marhat word for bamboo, stands for bamboo from the hills. These sticks are usually found on the hills in that particular region. This martial art's salient features are its well-structured techniques, fluid footwork, and smart fighting strategies. Number 4, Tankha. Tankha literally means sword and spear. It is one aspect of Huyen Langlan, art of war or method of safeguarding, a traditional martial art from Manipur. Its other aspect is Sarit Sarak, that involves unarmed combat. This martial art form integrates various external weapons, the sword, spear, and dagger, with the internal practice of physical control through soft movements coordinated with breathing rhythms. However, the heart of Tankha is the sword. There are hundreds of different sword drills that teach the basic strokes and stepping patterns of this fighting style. Number 3, Mardani Khel. Originally from Maharashtra, Mardani Khel is a weapon-based martial art form. It owes its development to the geographic conditions of the state, hills, caves, and valleys. A very ancient form of art, it saw its emergence during the Maratha dynasty. Kolhapur used to be the center of the Maratha kingdom, and the villages around it had talims or training centers where skilled elders prepared youngsters for war. After the revolt of 1857, the British banned the use of weapons, and the talims were forced to turn Mardani Khel into a folk game to ensure its survival. The use of weapons such as swords, katyar or dagger, lathi kathi, bamboo sticks, vita or darts, bhala or javelin, dand and patta, long-bladed swords, continued, but the moves were made more stylized and less lethal. Number 2, Gatka. Originating from the state of Punjab, Gatka is believed to be a battle technique created by Sikh warriors during the martial period of the great Sikh gurus. A style of stick fighting between 2 or more practitioners, Gatka is a toned-down version of the deadlier Shastar Vidya, the fighting style of the fearsome Akali Nihangs, or the blue-turbaned sect of Sikh fighters that was banned by the British after the Anglo-Sikh Wars. The sharp swords of Shastar Vidya have been replaced by wooden sticks and shields in Gatka. Number 1, Kalari Payattu. Often known as the mother of all martial arts, this 3,000-year-old art form originating from Kerala draws inspiration from the raw power, swift movements, and sinuous strength of majestic animals, the lion, tiger, elephant, wild boar, snake, and crocodile. The term Kalari refers to the place where this combat style is taught, while Payattu means to practice. Supposedly, the art form was introduced by Parashurama. This combat style has different levels through which one learns how to fight with and without handheld weapons. It has lately emerged in a new avatar as a source of inspiration for self-expression in contemporary dance forms, theatre, fitness techniques, and movies too. This video and most of our videos at Simply Chuma are intended to make sure that we know about our past. And before telling this to the world, we should tell this to ourselves and completely mean it. Mera Bharat Mahan. Before we end this video, please do press the like button. If you want to express your encouragement monetarily, then the link to our Patreon page is in the description below.
If I were to start over and choose like a more studious profession of some kind, I think it would be the archaeology or the evolution of martial arts. Like how one thing is linked into the next. I think it's really fascinating seeing some of that overlap that I'm more familiar with seeing with like Chinese martial arts and seeing like some of the similarities here and how it's different. There's a show I worked on once called Deadliest Warrior. What they do is they show you like one martial art style versus another, and they break down what they think would be the more effective martial arts style if they were to go head to head. I would love to see a Deadliest Warrior episode comparing Indian and Chinese martial arts.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I noticed with the Chinese martial arts is just the fluidity and the gracefulness of it, whereas this is less about grace and more about just practice. This is the movement you need to do in order to execute, this thing here, in order to protect yourself, in order to fight back, in order to put down your opponent. This is the movement. And it feels like it's literally being practiced strictly for that. The performance aspect is not as present.
Yeah, because I mean, martial arts can be, when it's, in the Asian culture, it can be more of like a dance at times, and then meant to be a form of protection. It's now evolved into, some people don't ever fight at all.
Right.
They don't ever get into a ring. They don't ever have any type of actually hand-to-hand combat. It's all about the performance aspect of it, yeah. And this definitely looks like it's more along the lines of meant for protection, and that there was a reason, behind it that was for combat purposes. Yeah.
Like if you were to watch like a women's self-defense class, it's not going to be like a kung fu form, right? It's like, this is how you kill him. Right?
I mean, I think that there might be aspects of it. There wouldn't be this eloquent type of like, nobody's caring about what you look like when you're protecting yourself in that way.
Yeah, and so the emphasis here to me, with at least what I've seen so far, because this is my second video that I've watched on Indian martial arts, it seems that the emphasis is placed way more on the functionality than on the beauty. The strongest in terms of like sheer beauty, in terms of the art form, was the first one we watched with I call it a bow staff, with the long staff where he's like twirling it around. It's very fancy, and I don't know how effective all that is in an actual combat situation.
Confuses them?
Maybe, but like, it looks dope. I thought it looked cool. And that is something I was very familiar with. I practiced, they called it Joe staff. I practiced that a little bit, and then I stopped practicing and started doing like crazy cheerleader shit. So I wasn't a cheerleader. I mean, like in terms of the movement, I love twirling it around and tossing it like that. It looks cool. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it does. The other thing I notice is that like when it comes to Chinese or, types of fighting MMA, there's not a lot of weapons being used.
No.
Typically. I mean, there are forms of it where, yes, there are weapons used like a staff or, swords and such, but it seemed like that was always part of the fighting, was that you're fighting with something, not just hand to hand, which I kind of wonder why that is, why the preference.
Well, they showed some hand to hand, and I'm sure to some degree it does translate. Eskrima is the Filipino martial arts style, and they use a stick. They use two sticks or they use a single stick, and it also translates into hand to hand a bit. And I think Bruce Lee even incorporated that into Jeet Kune Do. And so that's where some of the movement comes from. If I'm not mistaken, he fused Eskrima with Western boxing, with Wing Chun. Yeah, I would love to see a head-to-head, without anyone dying, of course. I'd love to see a head-to-head of like, an Indian martial arts style versus a counterpart Chinese martial arts style. And just to see how it would go down.
Yeah.
Because
like if you put them together and fought, like who would win?
One of the things that I notice is like, they have these performances in Los Angeles or in the States where you can watch these people on stage do these like graceful forms and whatnot. Or if you go on YouTube, you can see right now, like with the spears, where you see the Chinese people doing this with their head as the other one's trying to poke them in the neck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's literally like this close. Whereas here I see something similar, but there's more distance.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too. Also, I think that, when they're fighting for training instead of actually fighting, they probably keep a certain amount of distance for safety.
Right. I'm just curious. That's all. I'm echoing what I said before, which is this just feels like when I'm watching it, it feels more about functionality more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's not focused on being pretty so much as it is, like what actually is going to work in a fight. How are you actually going to take someone down? It's interesting because I know MMA includes a lot of ground fighting and grappling in certain times. And so I wonder if maybe they don't have any of that at all, or if it's all just standing.
I'm trying to think of the last video that we watched. I didn't see any ground fighting that I can recall, or anything that resembles Aikido. Or anything like that, and like locks and stuff like that. I'm sure it exists, but I'm just not familiar with it.
I was just wondering if it translated, if there was some parts of it that were similar in that way.
What's interesting though, this is the first time I ever heard this. This woman said that Bodhidharma was a king, and I never heard that before. I wonder if that's accurate. The story I heard, and I've read online, is that Bodhidharma was just a spiritual guru type of guy. He wasn't a martial artist. There's conflicting information about him, but like there's a version of the story where he traveled to China to spread Buddhism basically, or what's known as Buddhism, and 2 of his students created martial arts. And now I'm hearing this version. I've heard this version before where he brought martial arts to China, but I never heard he was a king. And so who knows what the heck actually happened? I'm curious.
Unanswered questions.
Yeah, unanswered questions. We'll never know, will we? I mean, I'm sure some of you guys have the research. Then you can tell us in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was interesting nonetheless. And yeah, you guys let us know your feelings in the comments below. Check out Cami Storm on the social media. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon so you get notified every time we drop another video. Check out our other reactions, reviews, short films, and what was I gonna say? Interviews. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is
Cami Storm.
Peace out.